Welcome to CBC Windsor News at 6. I'm Meg Roberts. Thanks so much for spending part of your evening with us tonight. A boil water advisory has been lifted from the Wheatley area, but after 3 weeks of being advised not to drink the water, residents still have concerns. Plus, a condo development on the city's east end has the potential to reshape the area. But the future plans have some neighbors divided. And you're going to see more local content at the Windsor International Film Festival. That kicks off 3 weeks from today. The Detroit River is on the mend. The international waterway is getting an upgrade to its health rating. That's thanks to the work of Canadian scientists who have been laser focused on improving its conditions. Tonight, there's an open house to share with the public how it's achieved this milestone. The CBC's TJ Deer joins us live from the event. TJ, over the years, we've been told the river's health is improving. How is the quality right now?
Well, the river is still listed as an area of concern. That's according to the U.S.-Canada Great Lakes Water Quality Agreement. Now, the Detroit River Canadian Cleanup is an organization that's working on removing the conditions that of that designation by eliminating what are called beneficial use impairments, or BUIs. Now, the BUIs being discussed tonight relate to the fish and wildlife populations, as well as deformities or reproductive problems of birds and animals. Cleanup efforts are being led by the Detroit River Canadian Cleanup. Joining me to talk about tonight's meeting is Sarah Lanoux. She's the group's acting remedial action plan coordinator. Sarah, thanks so much for joining us tonight. What specifically has been done recently to contribute to the improving health of the river?
Hi, okay, thank you for having me. One of the things that we've done to improve the health of the river recently is our Pesh Island restoration project, where we added several sheltering islands to prevent erosion, and we rebuilt some of the shoreline. In addition to that, we are creating a conservation area in partnership with the Essex Region Conservation Authority at a Colavino site, which is donated to us by the Colavino family. And behind the scenes, we actually do a lot of work. There's a lot of scientific studies going on and a lot of research being done for things like fish populations and contaminant levels within sediment and things like that, to determine which beneficial uses are no longer impaired.
And for people who may not be paying close attention to this, how does the health of the river impact the community?
Well, the health of the river impacts almost everybody within the community. It's super important because it actually provides drinking water to thousands of Windsorites, and it has a lot of heritage uses and recreational uses as well. It's one of the world's busiest fisheries, and it's one of the busiest waterways within the world for trade and things like that. So it's really important for people to care about its health. It would be absolutely detrimental if it was not well for us.
And just quickly, what can people expect tonight, whether they're showing up in person or remotely? Because I understand it is a hybrid event tonight.
Yeah, so it is hybrid. So what we're going to be having is we're going to have 3 different presentations. So we're going to have 2 presentations from our scientists that were working on these beneficial uses, and they're going to explain a little bit about what they did. And then I'm going to have a presentation where I'm going to give a little bit of context and explain what DRCC is, what the areas of concern program is, and things like that. And there's going to be ample amounts of time for people to be able to ask questions both in person and online. They're going to be able to ask the scientists directly, and we're going to be able to address any concerns that they have with the redesignation of these beneficial uses.
Well, thanks very much for joining us, Sarah. So there you have it. That's what's in store for tonight. And the health of the river, as you heard, affects everybody in the community. So tonight's event will last in person and virtually for those wishing to attend from 6:30 to 9 p.m.
Well, thanks so much for that, TJ. That's the CBC's TJ Deer reporting live. The boil water advisory may be over in Wheatley and Tilbury, but residents in the region still want answers, not just for the fire at a water treatment plant that sparked the advisory, but also for an explosion that rocked the community's core about 2 years ago. CBC's Jennifer LaGrassa reports.
Even though a boil water advisory has now been lifted for thousands of residents in Tilbury and right here in Wheatley, some people tell me that they still feel let down and uncertain.
The house behind me here on the other street is where I was born.
Terry Lobson has lived and worked in Wheatley his whole life. It's why he feels defeated over what's happened to the town.
More than 2 years after a gas explosion destroyed buildings in downtown Wheatley, this is still the scene. And last month, a fire at Wheatley's water treatment plant, which led to a 3-week boil water advisory, felt like yet another punch to a town that's already struggling to get back on its feet. Lobson feels like the town he holds dear just can't catch a break.
The water thing on top of this is just really created a lot of animosity and a lot of finger pointing and a lot of rumors, and I think that a municipality should have a little bit better communication.
More than 3 weeks after the fire at the water treatment plant, the municipality says the cause is still under investigation, and the cost of the damages is unknown. Right now, Wheatley and Tilbury are getting their water from Leamington and Chatham-Kent's systems, as it could take a year for the plant to be repaired.
There was significant damage throughout the water treatment plant throughout our equipment. We have to go through our equipment that's at the water treatment plant to determine what can be rehabilitated.
Well, we don't understand it. Like, why does it take a year and a half to get parts?
Wheatley resident Rick Taves also wants answers, not just on the water treatment plant, but about Wheatley's future. That's why he's planning to restart a local community group now called Active Citizens of Wheatley.
I hope we get something stimulated in Chatham at the council level. A sense of urgency of somebody taking the bull by the horns and saying, damn it, it's time something happened. This has gone on long enough. We are tired.
We've been kicked around a little bit, and we still need some help.
But mixed in with the exhaustion is hope. Hope that things will change and that this town will pull through the rubble. Jennifer LaGrassa, CBC News, Wheatley.
We heard from Chatham-Kent's mayor late in the day. In an emailed statement, he said Wheatley is strong, and despite the setbacks and because of the resiliency shown by the tight-knit community, the future is looking excellent. We're excited to be moving forward with the Imagine Wheatley project, which is a 20-year plan to help promote development and investment in the community. We've been hearing about it for months, the call for more housing in Windsor, Essex. And development is coming. A proposal in Ford City is aiming at building a 92-unit condo. But the future plans aren't making some neighbors too happy. The CBC's Dalton Chen has more.
This vacant schoolyard at 1646 Alexis Road could look very different in a couple of years. That's because a developer is hoping to put a 92-unit condo property here. The site drawings envision a pair of 6-story apartment buildings that would be the tallest structures in a radius of several blocks. Many nearby residents aren't thrilled about it.
It's just going to be too much for the neighborhood. The developer's trying to say that they're going to improve the neighborhood. This neighborhood doesn't need improving.
Joe Tangay moved into his home on Alexis Road in 1984. He's right across the street from the proposed development. His concerns include sewer capacity, building height, and privacy. He worries about upper-floor condo residents being able to see into nearby backyards. Down the street on Chandler Road, other homeowners wonder about the development's impact on local traffic.
The traffic flow on Chandler Road is terrible in the 1700 block. They keep saying it's supposed to beautify the area. I don't want to be looking at a 6-story building. And then all that parking from that building?
Rezoning for the project has been recommended by the city's Development and Heritage Committee. That rezoning now needs City Council approval. Ward 5's councillor says it's a fact. Windsor needs a lot of new residences.
Based on the conversation we have with the developers, listening to them and what they are suggesting, what they're trying to do, it seems like it's reasonable.
As for the developer, the president of Mayo and Associates Incorporated says the project has passed all the required studies.
It fits. It fits from a planning perspective. It fits from an engineering perspective. And so if not here, where else are you going to do this type of project? We need the housing.
Mayo hopes to begin construction in mid-2024 and have people living in the condos in 2025. Dalton Chen, CBC News, Windsor.
A rollout of the most recent Moderna COVID-19 vaccine is just days away. It's going to be available to higher risk groups in Windsor, Essex starting Tuesday. Those include pregnant people, those over the age of 65, infants and toddlers, people with underlying health conditions, and more. Anyone who's had COVID or a dose of the vaccine in the last 6 months isn't eligible to receive this latest booster. This updated Moderna vaccine, known as Spikevax XBB, will be available to the general public towards the end of October. The Windsor-Essex County Health Unit also encourages people to get their flu vaccines during this time. Windsor Regional Hospital is reintroducing a mandatory masking policy for staff and volunteers. Starting Tuesday, hospital employees will be required to wear masks when they're within 2 meters of a patient. That's unless there is a physical barrier in place. The hospital says it's taking this step because of a predicted increase of respiratory viruses in the community. Masks will be recommended but not required for visitors who are near patients. Only people experiencing symptoms will be required to wear a mask within the hospital. A transport truck carrying a trailer full of turkeys rolled over on Highway 401 in Chatham, Kent. It happened early this morning. The truck driver has been airlifted to hospital. The OPP says the driver has non-life-threatening injuries. No word on the condition of those turkeys. Well, speaking of turkeys, CUPE Local 543 is giving away 500 of them, as well as 100 chickens. The union is hoping to help some people out in time for Thanksgiving dinner. With the cost of food rising, people were happy to get a free meal for the holidays.
Not everybody is in that position to be able to afford, even if it's just a plate of Thanksgiving. And I thank them for being able to do this because not everybody is willing to do that. And for them to be able to do it, I'm grateful. My family, we're grateful.
With this donation, and now I have a beautiful dinner with my family. Thank you.
Anyone wishing to get a turkey or a chicken had to pre-register with the UHC Hub of Opportunities. That's where some of the turkeys and chickens were being given away today. People also received all of the other fix-ins like potatoes, carrots, stuffing, and some desserts.
Gone are the days when we used to be able to get, turkeys for 99 cents a pound, right? And that's no longer the case. But at the same time, you want to be able to provide a quality meal to families, and so yeah, those costs are there unfortunately this year.
UHC's food bank coordinator says the remaining turkeys and chickens will be handed out first come, first serve tomorrow at 9 a.m. Well, the federal government today announcing the outcome from last month's meetings with the heads of major grocery chains. The industry minister outlined a series of steps the top 5 chains will be taking to ease food prices, some within days.
Starting soon, Canadians will be able to see rollout of actions such as discount across a basket of food products, price freezes, and price matching campaigns, to name a few.
The government says if the stores don't act, it will. Also announced today was a grocery task force to monitor prices and pricing practices. In the works as well as a grocery code of conduct aimed at promoting what the government calls fairness and transparency. Canada's National Housing Agency today reported a slight 1% increase in home construction so far this year, but it warned it may not last. Apartment buildings fueled the increase, and the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation's report says interest rates will keep rental demand high. But it says those same interest rates, along with building costs, could discourage new starts, even for apartments. Canada's 6 largest cities were surveyed. It's a measure of the impact of current interest rates on household debt. A growing proportion of Canadian mortgages now see monthly payments eaten up entirely by interest, meaning no progress toward paying the mortgage off. The CBC's Philip de Montagny has the story.
La balance, le paiement.
Michael Girard-Courtier has a variable rate mortgage for his duplex. Because of his fixed payments, the portion going to interest ballooned. Last month, he only paid $23 towards the principal and more than $1,100 in interest.
I wasn't happy when I saw that. At first, I thought it was actually a mistake.
The time it will take to pay off his mortgage nearly doubled. from 25 to 47 years. He worries another rate hike would push him into what's called negative amortization, a situation where his monthly payment isn't enough to cover all of the interest owed, meaning his mortgage would actually grow month after month.
Instead of paying it off, well, I'm gonna get just in more debt.
This is already the case for about 20% of residential mortgages at three big banks, TD, BMO, and CIBC. These negatively amortizing loans amount to more than $128 billion.
It shouldn't be allowed. I know that most lenders in this situation, what they do is they increase your payment.
The three banks tell CBC News their clients can refinance their loan, pay out a lump sum, or increase their monthly payments, but many can't afford it.
It's an alarming situation considering the times that we're in right now.
Canada's Superintendent of Financial Institutions says $250 billion worth of mortgages have had their amortization period extended beyond 35 years.
I think both banks, financial institutions, and borrowers would be better off if the prevalence of this product was less.
The bank regulator plans to crack down on negatively amortizing loans to rein in the risk faced by lenders and their clients. It plans to update its rules and guidelines later this month. Philippe de Montigny, CBC News, Toronto.
This year's Windsor International Film Festival will be bigger than ever before and will include more locally generated content. The lineup for the 11-day festival was announced today. It includes more than 220 films with a combined total of 300 screenings.
We've got a whole new slate of films just focused on Detroit. We're really proud of that. That's brand new this year. We've got a special screening from TD on celebrating new Canadians. We've got a really cool film called The Lebanese Burger Mafia. That one's really fun. We're showing that. A new initiative this year, too. We've got a housing slate of films and an onstage conversation about housing and entrepreneurship that Libro's hosting. That's a new initiative.
46 countries are represented at the festival this year. It has the largest lineup of French films of any festival in Canada. It also includes lots of local content, including the movie Depraved Mind, produced by Suede Productions. The movie was shot in Windsor, mostly in Walkerville.
This festival has a spectacular lineup, always has. You know, the programming is second to none, and so we're really fortunate that we're even being set in the same breath as some of these other films. You know, that's not lost on it. We're very, very flattered to be part of it.
The festival is in its 19th year, and it runs from October 26th to November 5th. Well, there's a live look at the tower cam now. Little hard to see the pretty view with all the fog and rain. We have your full weather forecast coming up after the break. Well, we certainly noticed the warm weather in September here in Windsor, Essex, and it was noticed across the globe. New data shows last month was the hottest September on record by a huge margin, which has alarm bells ringing over the state of global climate. The temperatures had one scientist calling it absolutely gobsmackingly bananas. This all follows what has been a summer of heat extremes. Surface temperatures globally for September were 16.38 degrees, a half degree warmer than the record set just 3 years ago. That's according to Europe's Climate Change Monitoring Organization. We also saw the hottest August on record, and July was the hottest month ever recorded, driving heat waves and fueling wildfires here in Canada. Colette, those are some alarming facts for sure, and we've certainly noticed that warm weather September and even obviously into October, though today feeling much different than the last few days.
Yeah, it is. We're starting to make that transition, right? I'm sorry, I can't leave alone that gobsmacking bananas technical term that they use. Not to make light of the situation. Copernicus is the company that does all that data research, and it does seem like 2023 is going to be the hottest year by the time we get to the end of it that we've had on record. And some warm temperatures, they are above seasonal, even if it has been cooler today and the rain moving in and some of the windier conditions. It's still well above where we should be. A normal daytime high this time of the year is around 17, and even the current temperatures, so those were the highs earlier, the current temperature at 18 well above, and still some of this humidity too. But this cold front, it is a cold front working its way in, bringing in the moisture and the winds, and also some embedded thunderstorm activity here too. So the winds strong enough, but they'll actually kind of ramp up here in the next few hours through to the evening, and then they should improve once that front kind of passes by. When I say improve, they just won't be quite as gusty. But this is what we're contending with when you get into these yellows and oranges, some of the heavier rainfall, and this is kind of the biggest part of it, and then unsettled waves come in behind this into the holiday weekend. So I do think we'll break out into some decent conditions tomorrow afternoon. Actually see the sun come back again, but just keep in mind always that chance of showers to develop, and then becomes more likely as we get into tomorrow night and that lingering risk into Saturday. And the more it's that situation, right, where the more times we get some sun, the more it kind of adds to the situation where we get into some of this convective stuff. So all the way into our holiday weekend, and that cooler air filters in, and you'll notice it during the day, but you're going to notice it at night too as those readings sink back into single digits. Not tonight, but it is coming. Rainfall amounts 15 to perhaps 20 millimeters of rain. And I know we've talked yesterday, we were talking about how it's a little slow for some of the trees, the leaves to be changing color. The maples tend to be ahead of the game. They're always kind of first. But as we've got rain and wind, we are going to see what leaves have changed, really being pulled off the trees. And I just want to show you, you got to remember those stopping distances, because at a speed of 65 kilometers an hour, now you see you've got to stop ahead of you. On a dry road, we're talking about you could do that in about 25 meters. On a wet road, though, it's 50. And if it's wet and there are leaves, you really have to be careful. You need way more distance. And by the way, just walking on some wet leaves, that can be a little bit slippery too. The high tomorrow, just 19, not so bad, still above seasonal, but have a look what's happening as we get in there. And even though I didn't put the rain in, I do want you to see that chance kind of every day with these unsettled conditions.
Colette, that's a good tip for anybody who's perhaps driving up the 401 this weekend like I am, or you're on the roads.
Lots of travelers.
Yeah, make sure you're watching out for those slippery conditions. Thanks so much for that, Colette.
Yeah, you're welcome.
If you have a hard time filling out your bracket for March Madness, we have a tournament you might find more bearable. Coming up, we introduce you to Fat Bear Week. twisted turn of events for an elk who may have been looking to have a bit of fun.
I did get a hold of somebody. Let's go check it out.
This is police body cam video of officers who found an elk caught in a tree swing in Washington state last month. No one told the young bull that the men were there to help. The elk charged at the helpful officer, knocking him to the ground. It took several more attempts and risky moves to cut the ropes holding the antlers. Well, the voting is now open for Fat Bear Week, a tournament-style bracket where people choose which bear living in an Alaska national park should win the Fat Bear contest. This morning features 2 rounds, Walker vs. Grazer and Bucky vs. Electra. And as you can see, they're all potential bracket busters. If you're new to the contest, the name says it all. The brown bears in Alaska's Katmai National Park are literally living off the fat of the land right now, cramming on the kilos, stuffing themselves with tons of salmon before winter hibernation. You can vote at fatbearweek.org between noon and 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Well, that's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. Thanks so much for tuning in. Looking forward to seeing you back here tomorrow night.